I came back from dinner and wrote the Hedwig theme, dum ba dum bum bim bum bum, that, and sent it to them. And the producer called me back and he said, "That's it. That's the theme from our film." How would I describe a John Williams piece of music? I can tell you how I hope to describe it. I hope it's a good piece of music, something that is effective and people are happy to play and happy to hear. One standard, I would say, if it satisfies in a spiritual way with the scene that it's accompanying, then I think it's successful. I've been interested in writing music, I think, since my childhood. And I tried to write music as a teenager. My father was a musician, so the house was filled with music books of all kinds. Maybe age 13 or 14, started to look at books on orchestration. I was already playing the piano from a very early age. I wrote music for my friends to play with their instruments a little bit, something I could myself play on the piano. Never dreaming that I would be a professional composer. Who would have said you can earn a living writing music? It would be unthinkable unless you were going to be Jerome Kern or George Gershwin. Music has been with me all my life. It was there when I became conscious, when I woke up as a child. And it was what adults do in their profession, because my father's friends were all musicians. Later in my life, I began to conduct orchestras, which is sort of combines the efforts of writing and performing. And what a happy life. I played on a lot of very famous movies as a pianist. Notably, Some Like It Hot, you remember, in The Apartment and those things, South Pacific. But I think the first film that I did for a major director was How to Steal a Million, directed by William Wyler. And it starred Peter O'Toole, who I loved, and Audrey Hepburn, who I loved even more. I think that was the first A-level film that I was asked to score and given the privilege to do so. It was a wonderful one to start on because I adored both Peter and Audrey so much. Got to know them both a little bit and enjoyed their work as the whole world has done. Initially, Stephen wanted to have music like Images, which I'd written for Robert Altman's film called Images, which was very scary. And I looked at the film and called Stephen and I said, it felt to me more like an adventure film. I don't know what I'll do for the shark, but let me fool around with it and so on. And I tried several little ideas and finally came up with this silly thing, boom, 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 that. And I thought, well, that might work because it's very malleable in the sense that you can play the two notes frighteningly loud, as though the shark is right upon you, or make it very soft, as though you're hinting it's a long way away, but as it may get louder as it's approaching you. In a sense, it was a good cinematic or sound tool. The two notes in Psycho, Bernard Herrmann, scratch, 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 you know that, which horrified us when we saw the shower scene. Now, if you play scratch, scratch, scratch with an orchestra before an audience, they laugh. And now when you play boom, 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 they laugh. So time and context or whatever shift things around from something horrific and dangerous and threatening to something that is a giggling, nostalgic memory of a good time in the theater. Star Wars turned out to be a phenomenal beacon, I guess you could say, in the history of popular film. When I was working on it, I didn't see that. I thought it was a wonderful opportunity for music, among other things. I'll tell you a little story. I looked at the film, and Han Solo and Princess Leia seemed to me to be a wonderful couple of kids. And never, any of us ever didn't get a hint from George Lucas that there was ever going to be a second film. And I just assumed at the end of this film that the two characters of Luke and Leia would in future life marry, have children. So I wrote a love theme for Princess Leia and played it in the film, never realizing, and being told later on the second film, that they were brother and sister. And so in the second film, I had to write a new theme for Princess Leia. It was a complete mistake because George hadn't told us, that was going to happen.
Good luck, Harry Potter.
There's a phone call for you to take from London about Harry Potter. I knew about the books, but I hadn't read them. And the phone call was from one of the producers of the film. And he said, would you do the film? And I said, of course, I'd love to do the film. I was having dinner out that night. He said, will you write a piece of music that you would imagine would be a trailer for the film and record it with orchestra and send it to us? I came back from dinner and wrote the Hedwig theme, dum ba dum bum bim bum bum, that, and the next day orchestrated it, and then a day or so later recorded it with an orchestra that Mr. Gorfain had organized, and sent it to them. And the producer called back and he said, "That's it. That's the theme from our film. We want it all through the film and all through the whole thing." So I'm not sure where I had dinner that night, but it seemed to work out all right. Well, the violin part is difficult, yes. And I've written an arrangement of it for Anne-Sophie Mutter, the great German violinist, and she plays it all brilliantly. But it's a challenge for the orchestras, but they like that. You know, we need a little extra rehearsal, but it's playable, and they manage. I've watched Home Alone a few times. It delights me. Chris Columbus is the director of that film, and also the first Harry Potter, which I did with Chris. So I have those two wonderful experiences with Chris, who I like very, very much indeed. I think Home Alone is very special. It's a timeless piece. It ages very, very well. And it's played by a lot of orchestras live, where they show the film and the orchestra plays the music live and the chorus sings. And it's quite an event. It's become a kind of annual event around the world. Very rewarding and very satisfying. Jurassic Park is fantastic. I watched it a couple of years ago with Steven Spielberg, our director. I haven't seen it in 20 years or more, 25 years maybe. At the end of the film, we looked at each other and we said, boy, that was a pretty good movie, wasn't it? 20, 25 years later. What I think has extended its popularity, well, these amusement parks, we have them here in California and Florida and wherever else they are, in Europe, I think, in Japan even. We see the monsters, you know, and our young people can enjoy the memory of the movie, older people also. It's still with us in the culture.
The winner is John Williams for Fiddler on the Roof.
My first award of any kind. Of course, I was very excited. But I have to tell you, I have now had so many nominations for this and that and other awards and Grammys and so on. I think it's a human thing that you don't become so jaded that if you win your 100th baseball game, it isn't just as thrilling as winning your 99th. Maybe more so, because you got the 100 games and you're going to win this one. The Oscar ceremonies have so radically different in the now, 60 years that I've been going to those awards. The initial concept was that it was a dinner party where the movie stars would actually do performances. If it was a dramatic actress, she would do a comedy skit, or some clunky actor that couldn't act or could act but couldn't sing or dance would try to sing or dance. Gary Cooper, the great cowboy star, would do some comedy routine. That's all gone, and in a way it's too bad, because it would, I guess the principal performers and great celebrities didn't want to have themselves seem foolish. I think the biggest change was television, where you were going to be seen. It wasn't a party where you could just be silly and have fun. So when I first went to the Oscars, there was still a residue of that atmosphere and that quality to the evening. But it's coming up to close to 100 years, and it's a wonderful tradition, which I hope goes on longer. Films that I've composed, my favorites, Close Encounters, some of that music I'm fond of. Home Alone, I'm fond of the score. Steven Spielberg loves The Reivers, which is a Steve McQueen film done so many, many years ago. So quite a bit. Superman, as an overture to a concert, works extremely well. There's a lot in it. So all the various Star Wars films, Indiana Jones. But really, you know, people ask about the favorite scores. It's really like about saying, what's your favorite child when you've got 3 kids? You know, you love them all, and there are things about each one you might want to improve if you could. People ask about a legacy I don't think about very much. I think I'm much too young to think of such things. We all want to be remembered as somebody who did well, tried to improve the world we found. We're challenged in our lives to do more, to be better, so we can grow as a species together and improve our spiritual lives and improve the art of governance so we can manage social things better and more equitably than we've done ever in the past. So there's a lot of work to do. And if I could be remembered as someone who did his job well and remembered as a good, solid musician, I would rest very happily.